That one was a joke. An absolute disgusting display of hockey from the Montreal Canadiens. They lose 7-1 to the Minnesota Wild. The Wild scored 6 straight before the Habs could even respond. That's a disgrace. That puts their record to 15, 11, and 5 on the season, which somehow is still good for the second wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference. But Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Carolina, who we play next, are right on our ass. So that puts a huge amount of importance on our next game versus Carolina. But I will talk about that at the end of this video. Before that, we have a bit to talk about here, and I got to get out a bit of frustration because that was disgusting. Pretty much wasted 3 hours of my night watching the Habs play a very unenergized final road game for that road trip. That was a joke. First off, first period, it's mostly Minnesota. Niemi's playing half decent in the first and most of the way through the second. But regardless, Niederreiter ends up getting a tip-in goal in the first period for the Minnesota Wild. We go into the second, and it's still mostly the Wild. And then Weber takes a cross-checking penalty. Now, Weber cross-checked Parise right in front of the referee. The referee watched it, didn't make the call, and then when Parise slowly starts to get up, he makes the call. If you're going to call the penalty, call the penalty. Don't delay it and wait to see if the player's hurt or whatever before you call it. Now, regardless, it was a penalty. Weber cross-checked him. Weber is usually pretty good at disguising those cross-checks, so not really that great of a decision to cross-check a guy directly in front of a referee. It bit him in the ass. It is what it is. And then the Minnesota Wild go on the power play and score one of their 3 goals last night on the power play, thanks to Matt Dumba. A beautiful sauce pass over to him. Some great patience from the Wild there on the half wall. Gets a nasty sauce pass over to Matt Dumba. And didn't I tell you, the guy has a nasty shot. He wires it home on Niemi. And, yeah, Parise picks up an assist on that, if I'm not mistaken. And after that point, where Weber cross-checks him and is pretty rough on him in the corner, Parise absolutely wins that battle against Shea Weber for the rest of the night. Parise finished with a goal and 2 assists on the night. Brutal. Shortly after that, Montreal, it's 2-0. Montreal gets a power play, and go figure. They absolutely waste it. Not only do they waste it, they allow a shorthanded goal. Disgusting. Lazy play from Jonathan Drouin. They win the faceoff, which is pretty rare for them in the first place, so you want to capitalize on that opportunity when you win the faceoff, and you don't have to then enter the zone, which they're absolutely terrible at. They win the faceoff. Drouin, lazy play, trying to make some crazy pass. If you look at Minnesota's power play that they had, the patience they had on the half wall there, and then look at what Drouin did along the half wall, 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. Lazy play from Drouin. It leads to a 2-on-1 with Weber as the only guy back, and then he gets absolutely burnt by Charlie Coyle, who cuts into the middle and backhands it in on Niemi. Niemi started the game, okay, made some decent saves, but after that point, absolute garbage. 17 saves on 24 shots for Niemi, allowing 7 goals on the night. Not good whatsoever. Now, in his defense, he didn't get much defense. So, not all on him, but huge example of how Carey Price holds this team in games. Carey Price makes saves look easy, so it's harder to tell that he's keeping us in games, but he really does. And Niemi has been lights out earlier in the season. He kept us in some games too, but his last few starts have been average or below, to say the least. So next goal, Stahl gets one. Then we have Spurgeon on the power play. Then we go into the second, and Dumba gets another one on the power play. Absolutely nasty shot. This time it's a wrister from him, who he sneaks it in over the glove of Niemi. Then Jeff Petrie finally responds for the Montreal Canadiens. Late, makes it 6-1, but then the Wild just get it back. Parise with his goal. No pushback from the Habs whatsoever tonight, outside of maybe a tiny little stretch in the second period when it was still 1-0 and they had a couple plays and Drouin almost made it 1-1. But outside of that, once the game got out of hand for the Habs, zero pushback outside of that Nick Delorier fight, which is good to see. Beat the crap out of Sealer. But yeah, trash game for the Montreal Canadiens. Absolutely disgusting. No pushback, no physicality. They weren't blocking shots. Unbelievably bad. And we were the victim last night of a big, experienced, and skilled team. I don't have much bad things to say about the Minnesota Wild. They're not a team that I like or follow that often, but they're not a team that I dislike either. But what I can say is they are a well-balanced team. They got a great top nine. They got a very good defense. And on most nights, they have a very good goalie. And Dubnyk was on his game last night. He wasn't tested too much, but when they needed him, he made some big saves. And go figure. It's, yeah, so they were a team that came in on a bit of a losing skid. And they were desperate for a win. They probably played one of their best games of the year last year, whereas Montreal played one of their worst. So we were a victim of that. Yeah, and it's another example of, yeah, you guys are struggling. Your team's struggling. Your goalie's having some up and down nights. Why don't you come play the Montreal Canadiens? We'll do what we can to get your team going and help you out. Unbelievable. Fuck. Then, so it's 7-1, and Carey comes in, and I don't understand. If Carey is an option to come in at some point, why didn't he come in when it was 4-0? Why didn't he come in to start the third when it's 5-0? Why do you, if you're going to give him a break, why do you wait till it's 7-1 to then bring him in? I understand you don't want Niemi to get embarrassed, but he's already let in 7 goals on 24 shots. He's already been embarrassed. Let him finish it out. Let Carey get a break. It's just bad coaching. If Price was an option to come in, he should have came in at a point where it could have actually switched the momentum of the game. Not when it's 7-1 and he's just in there just to be there. Doesn't make sense. That was a very bad decision. Yeah. Unacceptable. Really unacceptable. We're not a team that can just sit back and let a game get out of hand. We're right in the middle of the pack here, fighting for a playoff spot. You need to do what you can as a coach to utilize everything you have to get a momentum switch and hopefully push back and get a win. That didn't happen last night. Absolutely brutal. Habs were also undisciplined, took 4 penalties, and yeah, and Minnesota cashed in on every single one of them. They were 0 for 4 on the penalty kill last night. Absolutely brutal. Disgusting. And Montreal's power play. It's 1-0. No, sorry, it's 2-0. And Montreal gets a power play. Not only do they allow that shorthanded goal, but then after that, they do nothing with that power play. It's getting to the point where it's almost better for Montreal to be at 5-on-5 and not get power plays. Because literally, 87% of the time, they are going to do nothing with it. And not only are they going to do nothing with it in terms of finishing and getting a goal, they're likely not even going to push the pace of play on the power play. And the reason for that is because their zone entries are absolutely dirty. They're not clean whatsoever. They might get into the zone for 5 to 10 seconds, but they're not establishing a formation in the offensive zone whatsoever. And a part of the reason for that, we didn't get to see it much last night because Montreal only had 1 power play, but a big reason for that is the main play they go to consistently on the power play to get a zone entry is dropping it back to Drouin or Domi, who then is flying at an insane clip trying to get in, and all other 4 players on the ice are standing there waiting for Drouin to enter flat-footed. So once he gets in, there's nowhere for him to go, likely no one for him to pass to, so it's a risky play or a one-and-done play that ends up all the way down on the other end of the ice. They need to figure out how to get clean zone entries. Switch it up. Don't do the same thing every time. Dump it in. Maybe Weber can skate it up. Shoot the puck in. Rim it around the boards. better communication. The key part of a power play is being able to establish yourself. So if you're a team that doesn't have guys that are going to win faceoffs consistently in the offensive zone, your zone entries better be goddamn good or your power play is going to be trash, which that's what it is. Unreal. Yeah, so it's getting to the point where if Kirk Muller can't figure this out and coach these guys into figuring this out, he is either going to lose his role as the power play coach or lose his job in general. Because I don't think Marc Bergevin switched up this coaching staff and rejuvenated this coaching staff to have a 29th power play in the NHL. It's unacceptable, and it's what separates us from being a middle-of-the-pack team to a very good team. If this team even had an average power play, they would be very, very difficult to play with and play against. And the thing is, with Weber coming back, he should improve the power play, but the thing is he's not typically going to be a guy that's going to be making your zone entries for you. We have guys like Drouin and Domi and Byron and Deneau and Riley that should be utilized to get clean zone entries. I don't get why Riley doesn't get any power play time because offense is his strength. And if you want to shit, you can shit on his defensive ability all you want or the odd terrible decision that he makes. But when you pull Mike Riley out of this lineup, outside of the power play here, I'm talking differently here, specifically about Mike Riley. When you pull Mike Riley out of this lineup, our only two puck-moving defensemen are Jeff Petrie, who's fantastic in his own right, and then after that, David Schlemko. That's a lot of pressure to put on 2 out of 6 of your defenders when you pull Mike Riley out of the lineup. He needs... I understand that he made that bad decision last game, and I get why he was benched. And it was his former team, so maybe he would have had nerves last night. But I don't understand why they won't leave him in the lineup for his skating and his puck-moving ability. Because after Jeff Petrie, you can't be relying on David Schlemko to be moving the puck up the ice. It ain't going to happen consistently. And him in general being in our top 4 is not good. That needs to be fixed sooner rather than later. He had some terrible games later back before the season. Lately, he's been okay. He's actually been pretty good. I'll give him that. But he is not a top 4 defenseman. He is a 5-6 at best, and he should not be our second best puck mover if we're scratching Mike Riley. It cannot happen. So either you put Mike Riley in the lineup for his puck movement, or you call Mete back up and bring him in. Because we can't be, you can't do that. Montreal couldn't get anything going up the other way, and a big reason for that is because their defense can't move the puck. Disgrace. Absolutely disgrace. Now, I'll give you some positives here. 3-game road trip, Montreal gets 4 out of 6 points. So that's actually not bad. A 7-1 loss is still just a loss. It doesn't make it end of the day, it doesn't make it a loss worse than any other one just because we lost 7-1. Would have been nice to get the 2 points because Buffalo won, Toronto won, Boston won, and that Atlantic Division race is tight as hell. But a loss is a loss. We got 4 out of 6 points on that road trip, and we just came off a 3-game win streak. We got Carolina on Thursday. Now, this is a huge game. Like I said before, they're right on our ass in the standings. We're going to be competing with them and Boston and Pittsburgh. And you know Pittsburgh's going to win a bunch of games here at the end of the season. They're going to make the playoffs, guaranteed. So we're going to be fighting with these teams for wildcard spots. This game on Thursday is very important. And after an absolutely disgusting display of hockey, disgraceful display of hockey, no pushback whatsoever, this team needs to show some character. And on the plus side, we got Carey Price coming in, likely to play for us. By the way, Carey Price, when he did come in, he was fantastic. As usual, fantastic. Didn't allow a goal once he came in. Mind you, Minnesota probably wasn't trying too hard to score after it was 7-1, but he still had to make some saves, and he was good in the net. We'll have him on Thursday, but I am done being a team that is relying on Price to keep us in games. Show some goddamn character. Come back. Play a game united as a team and respond to that absolutely disgusting loss against Minnesota. Absolute joke. So, let me know what you thought about the game in the comments. Absolutely brutal. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter at ScotianCanadien. Also, huge shout out to the subreddit, our Habs. Absolutely bunch of beauties in that subreddit. Love discussing hockey with you guys. Thanks a ton for the few of you who post my videos every now and then. I really, really appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys very soon after the next game. Cheers. Go Habs, go.